Today we're going to study the Chula Gosinga Sutta N31, which is chapter 11 of SD Sutta Discovery, volume 44. In other words, SD 44.11, Chula Gosinga Sutta, the lesser or smaller or shorter Gosinga discourse. The number here is M31. The reference is Majjhima Nikaya Sutta 31. The theme here is about silence and the joy of spiritual communion. Of course, there are a few other themes, like how a teacher, in a very friendly way, in a very concerned way, approaches the students and help them and asks after them regarding their personal welfare as well as spiritual welfare. In fact, this is a very beautiful illustration of spiritual friendship between the Buddha and the monks, the early arhats. Or to be more specific, the Buddha and three monks, Anuruddha, Nandiya and Kimbila, who are very good friends. In fact, they are such good friends that they decide to be together in their own personal practice. What's interesting is there are three of them, three monks, and yet they are living together, working together, practicing solitary meditation. How do they do that? By keeping silence. Isn't this interesting? We see three monks living together but observing silence, and yet they're able to work together, doing their daily duties, their monastic duties. And so they signal each other. This is how the sutta describes it. They signal each other, they help each other without having to say any words. That means there is a lot of awareness, presence of mind of what's going on around them. And once on the fifth day, I suppose this could be Friday, every fifth day of the week, they will gather together in the evening and spend the whole night discussing Dharma. It's very interesting. In other words, they just stay up the whole night. Because of their meditation, they're so energized they could do that. And I've heard this being done in some of the forest monasteries, where the abbot would at any time just give a series of Dharma talks the whole night through. Or he would simply impromptu invite certain monks to give a Dharma talk. So in other words, the monks should be prepared at all times to talk Dharma spontaneously. Okay, so let us look at the sutta, translation, and just give some comments as we go along. The lesser Gosinga Sutta M31. Thus have I heard, at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in the brick house at Nadika. Nadika is a small village, and there is a brick house there. I don't think the word brick house is a proper name. It just means that they had bricks those days, and this house was made of bricks, which is rare. So it's simply called the brick house. It is a safe place, and the Buddha stayed there with the monks. It's probably not a very big place. So the Buddha is there, but elsewhere you have these three monks. These three monks are living in the Gosinga or Cowhorn Sal Grove. The sal trees everywhere, and this forest or grove is named after the oldest sal tree there, which has got like a kind of a twin. It's very rare in the sal tree. It's got twin branches. Somehow the tree at the top breaks into two, so to speak. It sprouts two branches like a cow's horn. So Go Singa, Go is cow and Singa is horn. The cow horn sal forest. So there, 3 months, Anuruddha, Nandiya and Kimbila were staying in solitary meditation. At that time, the Venerable Anuruddha, the Venerable Nandiya, and the Venerable Kimbila or Kimila was staying in a Gosinga cowhorn South Forest Grove. When it was evening, the Blessed One emerged from his solitary retreat and approached the Gosinga South Forest Grove. So apparently this forest probably is not too far away from where the Buddha was staying. But then something interesting happened. The park keeper there in the Gosinga South Forest Grove could not recognize the Buddha. The park keeper saw the Blessed One coming from afar. Seeing him, he said this to the Blessed One: "Recluse, do not enter this park. There are here 3 sons of family engaged in desiring their own good. Do not disturb them." Right? So the park keeper was very protective. He tells the Buddha not to enter the forest, so as not to disturb the 3 monks who are meditating. So obviously this park keeper cannot recognize the Buddha. The Buddha just keeps quiet. He does not in any way respond in this case. Interestingly, probably the monks were nearby. Maybe it's a few kutis were there, and this park keeper was living there too. And the forest is so quiet and peaceful, so even if one person speaks, the other people can hear. So the Anuruddha hears this remark by the park keeper. So let's see what Venerable Anuruddha does. The Venerable Anuruddha heard the park keeper speaking to the Blessed One. Hearing this, he said this to the park keeper: "Friend park keeper, do not obstruct the Blessed One. He is our teacher, the Blessed One, who has come." Then the Venerable Anuruddha approached the Venerable Nandiya and the Venerable Kimbila. Having approached them, he said this to the Venerable Nandiya and the Venerable Kimbila: "Come out, Bhantes, come out, Bhantes. Our teacher, the Blessed One, has come." So it's a very joyful moment. So of course, this is a time when they have to break the rule of silence, because teachers come and they have to prepare themselves. Then the Venerable Anuruddha, the Venerable Nandiya, and the Venerable Kimila went out to meet the Blessed One. One took the Blessed One's bowl and robe, one prepared a seat, and one set up water for washing the feet. So that's how they welcome the teacher, or welcome senior monks. Okay, so once all these preliminaries are done, then of course they offer the Buddha a seat, and the Buddha sits down. And then the Buddha asks them, "I hope you 3," the 3 is not there, but I'm supplied so that you know it's a plural. The Buddha is addressing all the 3 monks. You can read it: "I hope you find it bearable." Actually, you means all the 3 monks. Anuruddha. Now notice the Anuruddha is a very rare situation here. It's in the plural. Masculine, third person, plural, okay? Anuruddha. This kind of arrangement seems to be unique to Pali, maybe Sanskrit, I suppose. Anuruddha means Anuruddha and company. Anuruddha and others who are present. Or if you like, you can say Anuruddha, Nandiya, and Kimbila. So the Buddha would address the synonyms. This is like a synecdoche. Just address one person, it applies to all those present. This is a very common convention in the Pali text. When the words say bhikkhave, okay, monks, again it means to the monks and everyone else who are present, nuns, laymen, laywomen, devas, or other beings. Right? So the word monks doesn't mean only to the monks. So it's wrong to say the sutras are taught only to the monks. It is true that certain sutras, especially regarding Vinaya, may apply to the monk, but indirectly it also reminds lay people how to respect and treat the monks. After all, we do have a separate teaching, the Vinaya, specifically for the monks. So where the sutras are concerned, you can say the teaching is for everyone, because we need to awaken. So when the Buddha says monks, he is addressing anyone who needs to be awakened. So The Buddha, notice here, it's a very simple, very human way of greeting. The Buddha simply is asking after the monks, I hope you three find it bearable, right? Anuruddha, I hope you find it comfortable living here in the forest. I hope you are able to keep going. I hope you have no trouble with alms food. What could be more mundane than that? Buddha asking the monks, how's your food? Something like that. And Anuruddha replies on behalf of the other monks, it is bearable, blessed one. We are able to keep going. In other words, the practice, there's no problem with the practice. We have no trouble with alms food, Bhante. So notice, this isn't a kind of small talk, if you like, right? It's a friendly chat before talking about Dharma. And this is quite normal. I mean, monks are not robots, Buddhists are not robots. We say, how are you, how's everyone? And then we start talking Dharma. So this is a very friendly, very human, very full of loving kindness, meeting people on their level. And then the Buddha continues, and this time the Buddha goes to a higher level, if you like. Anuruddha, I hope you are all dwelling in concord, in mutual joy, without disputing, mixing like milk and water, looking at each other with kindly eyes. Right now, the Buddha addresses spiritual friendship, harmony. And Anuruddha replies on behalf of the group, certainly, Bhante, we are all dwelling in concord, in mutual joy, without disputing, mixing like milk and water, looking at each other with kindly eyes. Right? So there's eye contact. It's very important. When people communicate, talk with each other, there is eye contact. We have nothing to hide, in other words. Then the Buddha asks, but how do you keep that concord? Then comes the teaching starts here, so to speak. Anuruddha mentioned how he practices. So Anuruddha talks about his own practice first. And then the other two monks will basically tell the same thing. So here we have it's a very interesting way how the ancient sutta compilers arrange the teaching. You have the teaching on practice repeated 3 times, so the monks listen and they're able to pick up or follow that as an example. So Anuruddha replies, Bhante, here I think thus, it is a gain for me. It is a great gain for me that I'm dwelling with such companions in the holy life. It is a sense of mudita. Okay, so happy that he has these good friends with him. Bhante, I keep up acts of loving kindness through deed, both openly and in private, towards these venerables. Right? So it shows loving kindness in outward physical action. Bhante, I keep up acts of loving kindness through speech, both openly and in private towards these venerables. Even when talking, when necessary to talk, talks of loving kindness. Bhante, I keep up acts of loving kindness through the mind, both openly and in private, towards these venerables. So even in thought, in their absence, in his own mind, he shows loving kindness to the other 2 monks. So in other words, they are very close spiritual friends. Then there is something even more interesting. So the practice goes deeper, in other words. Anuruddha says, Bhante, here I think thus. Why don't I set aside what I wish to do and instead do what these venerables wish to do? This is amazing, right? So when we talk about selflessness, this is the example of perfect selflessness, if you like. Why don't I set aside what I want to do, but let me do what my 2 friends want to do or need to do. Then Bhante, I set aside what I wish to do and instead do what these venerables wish to do. So this is called a self-sacrificing kind of attitude. But imagine, the other 2 monks also basically say the same thing. So in a sense, you find there's lots of wonderful cooperation here. It's not a one-sided relationship. And then Anuruddha continues, there's one more line, very important line. It seems, Bhante, that we may be of different bodies, but we are of one mind, or one heart, if you like. So there you are, as I said, all the other 2 months, all the 3 months, think alike. So they are very cooperative, very aware of each other. So this is a wonderful lesson for us in terms of spiritual friendship. Then comes Nandiya's turn. So Nandiya says effectively the same thing. He says, Bhante, here too, for me, this is a great gain for me to have such spiritual friends. And then he says how he shows loving kindness to body, speech and mind to the other 2 months. And also he would put aside his own wishes and try to do what the other 2 months need to do. And then Kimila says the same thing. The words are the exact and the same words. So all the 3 months think the same way towards each other. So in other words, you see this kind of wonderful awareness and interaction going on. And when everyone thinks of the needs and wishes of the other, so you find anyone can, like, when he needs to do something, he just needs to say it, and the other 2 friends will at once respond. So it's a very wonderful kind of friendship. So this is the kind of training, kind of practice that should be done in a group, especially close Dharma friends. Right, so that part of the dialogue finishes. Then the Buddha asks another question, 8.2. But how, one more point here. So the number 8, section 8, the Buddha says, sadhu, sadhu, very good, excellent. Anuruddha, I hope you all dwell diligent, ardent and resolute. So the Buddha goes deeper now. In fact, it's very interesting because in previously the Buddha talks about conduct, if you like, a moral conduct, spiritual friendship. Now the Buddha goes on to talk about meditation, if you like, a little deeper, okay, more centered on meditation. Because once you see the word diligent, ardent, resolute, you know this talks about the 3 training, especially meditation. Then the monks, the Anuruddha replies, certainly Bhante, we dwell diligent, ardent and resolute. Then the Buddha asks, how do you do that? How do you dwell diligent, ardent and resolute? Then the Anuruddha replies, here Bhante, whichever of us returns first from the alms round in the village, he prepares the seats, sets up water for drinking and for washing, and sets up the refuse bin. Right, so everything's ready for the meal. Whichever of us returns last from the alms round in the village, if he wishes, he eats the leftovers. Right? So in other words, the monks come back, they eat what they need, and then they leave aside, cover it in the bowl, they cover it. And whoever comes later or last will eat the food and leave something, and so on. And the last person would clear up. So, and let's see what happens here. Which of us returns last from the alms round in the village, if he wishes, he eats the leftovers. Maybe the last person, could have gone around and couldn't find any food, and then comes back, there's no food. I remember when I was a monk in Bangkok, and that happens, especially if you wake up late. I mean, Bangkok late means you go, let's say, 6:30 is late already, people are going to work, and people are not likely to stand on the street to give food because the streets are going to be busy. So if you wake up late, you're going to come back with an empty bowl. But there is food. The other novices would kind of put their food together, because sometimes you get a lot of food and you can't finish all alone, and we share with others. Right, then Anuruddha continues. Or if he wishes, that is this last person who comes back, or if he wishes, he would throw them away where there is no greenery, or pour them into water where there's no life. He puts away the seeds and the water for drinking and for washing. And after washing the refuse bin, he puts it away and sweeps the refectory. So you can see here how the monks are very neat. Everything is in order, right? So that's what they call order of monks. Okay? Whoever notices that the vessels of water for drinking or for washing or for the toilet are low or empty, he sets them up. Right? So there's no duty roster. Everyone knows what to do. Isn't it a wonderful arrangement? So there's no guidelines for communal living, in other words. Then something else, even more interesting, 9.2. If he's unable to manage them, he would signal another with his hand, and by joining hands, they set them up. So they help each other. Maybe there's a heavy seed or something which cannot be done alone, so they will join efforts. As such, Bhante, there is no cause for us to break into speech. So speech is only used for Dharma discussion, in other words, or when they are talking to the Buddha. Then there's something else they will do, this time about talking. On every 5th day of the week, Bhante, we sit together all night discussing the Dharma, right? All night. Because the night is very peaceful. And they will spend the night discussing the Dharma. Imagine, it's so wonderful at night. And often do my translation work at night. It's so quiet. All the noisy people are sleeping, all those quarrelsome people are sleeping, and you find it so peaceful, and you really enjoy spending time with the Dharma, maybe meditating. This is how, Bhante, we dwell diligent, ardent, and resolute. Now, if you like this word diligent, ardent, and resolute, you can actually see them as referring to the 3 trainings, right? Diligent means diligent in keeping the precepts. Ardent, that means you are very focused in practicing meditation. Resolute means you're committed to the Dharma as wisdom. Okay, so that's another way of looking at these 3 words. Now the Buddha goes even further still. So it is progressively deepening. The Buddha now asks, have you benefited from all this? Right? Look, so at 10 the Buddha says, Sadhu, Sadhu, Anuruddha. But Anuruddha, while you are dwelling thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, abiding in the effort that is the distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones, have you attained the superhuman state? Uttari Manusa Dhamma. Okay, here the term superhuman state means dhyana. Have you attained mental focus? Have you attained what's further than that? In other words, some level of sainthood or awakening. So this is very interesting. Okay? So the Buddha asks, in other words, the final question, if you like. Okay, so now starts the deep, really deep section on the mental cultivation, spiritual development. So this next section talks about the 4 dhyanas. So the Anuruddha replies, why not, Bhante? Remember, here Anuruddha is a spokesman, so he says, why not, Bhante? Here, Bhante, whenever we wish, notice, whenever we wish, anytime, quite detached from sensual pleasures, detached from unwholesome mental states, we enter and dwell in the first dhyana. Notice how he says we. He doesn't say I. Okay? It's referring to the other 2 monks also. We enter and dwell in the first dhyana, accompanied by initial application, sustained application, accompanied by zest and joy born of seclusion. And then comes the refrain. This section is repeated for every new section. This, Bhante, is how we, dwelling diligent, ardent, and resolute, having attained a further superhuman state, abide in the comfort, that is the distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones. Right? So in other words, it says we attain first dhyana, whenever we like. And then the second dhyana, whole dhyana formula is formulated. I won't go through them again because I've done this before in the previous talk and many other talks. So here we go into the second jhana. So this is another development. And then the third jhana and the fourth jhana. So step by step, everything is laid out in full, the jhanas are defined, and Anuruddha says we are able to attain up to the fourth jhana anytime you wish. It doesn't stop there. After the fourth jhana, there is a fifth level. Because this fourth jhana are the form jhanas. Now it goes on to the formless jhana, the formless attainments. Section 14. The Buddha exalts in their practice, in their attainment. Buddha says, sadhu, sadhu, Anuruddha. So then the Buddha asks, okay, is there, do you go further? In fact, after each statement that Anuruddha makes, each jhana, the Buddha will say, is there any further? Any further? And then Anuruddha goes on saying, yes, the next step, like that. So now Anuruddha says, here, 14.4, here, Bhante, whenever we wish, through the utter transcending of the perception of physical form, the passing away of the perception of impingement, non-attention to the perception of diversity, contemplating space as infinite, we enter and dwell in the sphere of infinite space. So here, in the next series of questions that the Buddha asks, Anuruddha replies, yes, we now, from the fourth jhana, we're going into the next stage, the formless jhana of infinite space. And then the Buddha asks, what next? Then Anuruddha replies, okay, next we go on to the sphere of infinite consciousness, and explains how that is done. You remember in last week's study on the Kulagarani Sutta, we mentioned this also, right?
No, there was a different class on Sunday.
Oh, okay. So during the Sunday talk, we also mentioned the different stages. That is Attaka Nagara Sutta, if you remember. Okay, so you can also see similar details, but in the Attaka Nagara Sutta, only the four form jhanas, the four divine abodes, and only three of the formless abodes are mentioned, 11 stages altogether. But here, four form jhanas are mentioned, plus 4 formless attainments, and the last one, number 9, is called attainment of cessation, altogether forming what are called the 9 progressive abodes, Anupupa Vihara. Alright, coming back to where we left off, right? So Anuruddha mentions and attains all the 4 formless attainments one by one. So here, recalling our study of the Attaka Nagara Sutta, we can perhaps understand here the saints here could have awakened at the 9th stage, that is reflecting on the perception of nothingness. Okay? Then as arahats, when they meditate, they can easily go on to the 8th stage, that is the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, because this 8th stage is very subtle, that it's very difficult, even impossible to, when you come out of it, to reflect on the impermanence of such a state, in other words. So if you are wondering what is being said here, you can listen to the video on the Attaka Nagara Sutta, which was given last Sunday. That's probably the 3rd, is it? Sunday, 3rd of May, right?
Okay.
Oh no, sorry, 10th of May. Yeah, today's 13th of May. It's the 10th of May. So, right. So they have reached all the 4 form jhanas, 4 formless jhanas. And then Anuruddha says, 18.4, here Bhante, whenever we wish, through the utter transcending of the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, we enter and dwell in the cessation of perception and feeling. By our seeing wisdom, we utterly destroyed the influxes. So in other words, they become arahats. Only arahats and the Buddha are able to attain the attainment of cessation. There is a state where a human being show no more signs of life as we know it. No modern instrument can measure, detect life on such a person. The person is effectively dead, but he will come out of that stage after a few days, at the most 7 days. So this is called cessation. So the Buddha says, very good, sadhu-san. Then, before that, Anuruddha has one more line, 18.6, it says, and Bhante, we do not see any other comfortable abiding higher or more sublime than this. Right? So here Anuruddha calls this comfortable abiding because the dhyanas bring joy and remove pain from the physical pain from the practitioner. And Anuruddha declares there is no more further state to go. In fact, that in other words, they have attained full awakening. Right? So here again, that is why it's important to learn early Buddhism. We don't need to go any further. The Arahat is fully awakened. So there's no need to work to become Buddha and so on. We have to be very careful not to turn the teachings on its head and say, oh, these Arahats still need to become Buddhas. This is a very wrong view. It's a very negative view. So we should not even talk about something this way, and much less should we listen or accept such a wrong view. So the sutras are very clear. The Arahats have awakened, they have reached the end of the journey, and that's all. Alright, so this first part is finished. Then the Buddha says, very good, and the Buddha says, well, since you are doing well, it's time for me to go. So the Buddha leaves, and 3 monks follow him a short distance. And then,
before that, the Buddha gives teaching?
Yes, of course. The Buddha, before leaving, the Buddha gives them a Dharma talk, and then the Buddha leaves. Okay. Now then, the other 2 monks, after the Buddha has left, the other 2 monks ask Anuruddha, look at 20.2. Now, when did we ever say this to the Venerable Anuruddha, that we have attained such and such abidings and attainment? So in other words, the other 2 monks said, we have attained those things. We never told you we were enlightened. Now here, remember, Anuruddha has attained this. He is the foremost monk in terms of the divine eye. He's able to read people's mind. He knows about the nature of karma. So he's a very important commentator. He's a very important observer who gives us records of things unseen. Okay? Even in terms of literature, this kind of person is very useful. It reports to us. He becomes a narrator who tells us about things which cannot be seen, obviously by us, by the reader, or by someone who's not present in that situation. Or even who's present there, they might not see. Like for example, how the Buddha passed away. It is Anuruddha who's the one telling, okay, this is what happened. The Buddha is going through all these stages, and then he's doing this, doing that, and then only now he has passed away. So Anuruddha is able to read someone's mind very well. So Anuruddha replies as well, you did not tell me all these things, but I know this through knowing the Venerable's mind with my own mind. In other words, he is able to read the minds of the other monks. And then Anuruddha says, well, the Devas too told this matter to me. Right? The Devas also informed the Anuruddha that the monks were enlightened. Apparently there are certain Devas who have this ability also. They're able to read the minds of the monks or even of the Buddha. But they're not enlightened themselves, just that they have that special quality. Now remember, these monks are in the forest, so there is this yaksha. According to mythology, Indian mythology, yakshas are very powerful beings, probably spirits or some kind of person living in the forest by themselves too. And he's a yaksha. His name is Diga Barajana. Then the yaksha Diga Barajana approached the Blessed One. We're not told exactly where. Probably maybe the Buddha went back to his monastery and then this yaksha appears to him, or maybe the yaksha appears to him halfway en route. And he saluted the Buddha and then stood at one side. And then he tells the Buddha, section 21.2, it is a gain indeed, Bhante, for the Vajji people, a great gain indeed. Vajji people are the people in that country, okay? So it says these people here are very lucky that the Tathagata, the Arahat, fully self-awakened one, dwells amongst them. And these three sons of family, that is the Venerable Anuruddha, the Venerable Nandya, and the Venerable Kimila, do too. In other words, it's wonderful to have all these arhats present in this country. So he makes this wonderful lion roar. So if you like, you can say this is a yaksha's exaltation or lion roar. And then you have this interesting sequence, which also found in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. First, this wonderful sadhukara, this exaltation, joyful statements made by the yaksha Diga Barajana. 21.3, having heard the words of the yaksha Diga Barajana, the earthbound deities, or earthbound devas, make the same statement. They say, wow, yeah, it's true, it's wonderful to have the Buddha and all these arhats. Okay? Now these earthbound deities, they also include yakshas, by the way. Okay? And when these earthbound deities make that statement, the next level of devas hear it, and so on. So it goes on like this paripasu, step by step. So the next level of devas are the four great kings. If they hear this, they also make this loud announcement. And then the devas of the 33 hear this, and they in turn make announcements. So imagine you have these layers of heavens going upwards, all these announcements. You feel like this is a sublime kind of statement, some kind of a news being spread. Then the voice of the devas of the four great kings were heard by the devas of the 33, whose voice were heard by the next level of devas, the Yama devas, and then the Tusita devas, and then the devas who delight in creation, and then finally the devas who lord over the creation of others. So these are the form world. And then the Brahma world also, especially the lower levels of Brahma world also hear this, the Brahma Kayika devas. So in other words, from the earthbound deities right up to the Brahma world, they say sadhu, yes, it is truly wonderful to have the Buddha and the Arhats in our presence. This is a wonderful recollection of the sangha, if you like, the awakened noble sangha. Then the Buddha agrees, section 22, so it is Diga, so it is Diga. Then the Buddha makes his own statement. So here again, this also is a good sutta for studying on the recollection of the sangha, sangha no sati. So here the Buddha says, so too Diga, if the family from which these three sons of family went forth from home into homelessness were to recall with an inspired heart, with a faithful heart, these three sons of family, it would be for their good and welfare of that family for a long time. Right? The family says, wow, we have our three children have gone forth and they're arhats. And then the Buddha says, even the family, that generation, the whole generation think in this way, how they have produced these arhats is a wonderful thing, for the great blessing. And the village from which they come from, or to reflect on these arhats. The market town, the city, the country, right? The whole country. If they reflect in this way, it is something for their great blessing. So here, in other words, you see these arhats, they're not just individual, private people. They benefit everyone. So this is the first part. Okay? Then the Buddha continues. He says, this time the Buddha talks about the classes, the groups of people who inhabit a country. 22.8. If Diga or the Kshatriyas, the nobles, were to recall these three sons of family with an inspired heart, it would be for the good and welfare of all these Kshatriyas for a long time. And also, same thing, the Brahmins were to recollect in this way, the priests. The Vaishyas are the merchant class people. The Shudras, the worker class. And most significantly, 22.12. If the world, with its Mara and Brahma, along with its recluses and priests, or Brahmins, the generation along with its devas and humans, but to recall these three sons of family with an inspired heart, it would be for their own benefit. So there you are. This is an interesting, beautiful study on Sanghanusati, recollection on the Sangha. See, Diga, how these three sons of family have practiced for the good of the many, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, for the benefit, the good and happiness of the gods and humans. Now this paragraph 22.13 is the shorter Great Commission. You find the full Great Commission is given in the Vinaya, where the Buddha first made this statement, sending out the 61 monks to spread the Dharma to the 60 arahats in 60 different directions, if you remember. And this is in Vinaya Mahavagga chapter 11, section 1. It's also found in the Marapasa Sutta 2, that is S 4.5, also related in the Mahavastu, volume 3, page 415, in the following page. So the Buddha finishes teaching. The Blessed One said this: the Yaksha Diga Parajana joyfully approve of the Blessed One's word. So this is interesting. The ending, the Yaksha, as you know, is only present with the Buddha. But he could, of course, he must have been present when the Buddha was in the forest with the 3 months also. So he probably followed the Buddha and then kind of told the Buddha how wonderful, how happy he felt. So this is a very joyful sutta, reminding us the presence of the Sangha in the world. So let us reflect with that. So the Chula Gosinga Sutta is the most happy sutta, reminding us of the presence of arahats in the world, of the possibility of attaining awakening in this life itself when we follow the suttas and recall to mind the virtues of the great arahats of the past, of the Buddha's time. Reflecting in this way is very wonderful good karma. By the power of such good karma, may we be well and happy in this life itself. May we prosper. May we grow in wisdom in the Dharma, and in health, and in our ability and skillful means to help others, inspire them, to heal themselves, to help themselves, and to be free from suffering. And also by all the good deeds we have done, may we aspire to attain spiritual liberation, especially stream winning in this life itself. In this moment of peace too, let us send out our loving kindness to all the beings here, to all the people here, that they may see the Dharma and be well and happy. To all our loved ones, to our teachers, may they be well and happy. And to those whom the Dharma have not touched, that they may see the Dharma for themselves and attain awakening in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.